My parents wanted half of my business, claiming it was a family legacy. Now, after their manipulation, I've cut ties and reclaimed my life. Hey Reddit, I'm Alex, now 33, but this story started almost a decade ago. It's been a wild ride full of stress, setbacks, and relentless effort. Looking back, I'm amazed I survived it all. Here's how it went down. I was 25 when I decided to start my own business. At the time, I had no savings, no family support, and no safety net. My parents worked hard but struggled financially, so I knew I'd have to figure it all out on my own. I'd always dreamed of being my own boss, creating something from scratch, and building a better life. I chose e-commerce because it was booming and seemed like the right path. But there was one massive problem: I had no money to start. I researched for weeks, eventually deciding to take out loans. I walked into every bank I could find, pitching my plan. Most loan officers barely let me finish before turning me down. One even told me I'd drown in the industry. Finally, one bank took a chance on me, sort of. They approved me for 3 loans, but the interest rates were sky high. I didn't hesitate. I signed the papers, knowing I'd just taken on over $100,000 in debt. It was terrifying, but I was ready to fight for my dream. The first year was brutal. I worked from 5 a.m. to midnight every single day. My apartment doubled as my office, a cramped studio with stacks of inventory shoved against the walls. The smell of cardboard and packing tape was constant. I didn't have money for luxuries, or even basics. My diet consisted of instant noodles and clearance bin groceries. One winter, I couldn't afford to heat my place properly. I'd wear layers and sit under a blanket, fingers numb as I worked at my secondhand desk. There was no fallback. My parents couldn't help financially, and my friends were all broke too. Failure wasn't an option. After about 6 months, things started to change. I'd been running ads on a shoestring budget when one of my products, a fitness gadget, suddenly started selling. Orders came in faster than I'd expected. It felt like my hard work was paying off. But then disaster struck. My main supplier went out of business without warning. I had thousands of backordered items and angry customers demanding refunds. I scrambled to find a new supplier and ended up paying double for replacements. It wiped out my profits and pushed me further into debt. The stress was unbearable. I started getting stomach ulcers from skipping meals and drinking too much coffee. I lost weight, and friends told me I looked like a ghost. I didn't have time for a social life, let alone dating. My world revolved around work, and every small mistake felt like the end of the world. After 3 years of grinding, I made a bold decision. I noticed a growing demand for eco-friendly home goods and decided to pivot my business entirely. It was risky, but I poured everything into the switch, researching suppliers, designing a new brand, and building a professional-looking website. It worked. Sales started climbing steadily, and for the first time, I wasn't just scraping by. I was making a profit. I hired a small team to handle logistics, giving me time to focus on strategy and growth. Fast forward a few years, and my business had grown beyond my wildest dreams. I'd paid off my loans, moved into a proper office space, and even started mentoring other aspiring entrepreneurs. It felt like I'd finally made it. But then, everything changed at a family gathering. It was a sunny Saturday afternoon when my parents, Jack and Linda, invited the extended family to their backyard for a barbecue. The occasion was my cousin Emily's graduation. Our family gatherings were usually full of energy, kids running around, aunts gossiping, uncles arguing over sports. I arrived late because of work, as usual, juggling last-minute emails on my phone as I walked into the yard. My mom greeted me immediately, her usual cheerful self. She handed me a plate of food and told me to relax for once. I tried, but my mind was already halfway back at work. These gatherings always made me feel like an outsider. Everyone else seemed so carefree, while my thoughts were filled with shipping deadlines and inventory shortages. When the meal wrapped up, my dad stood up with his beer in hand and tapped it with a spoon to get everyone's attention. "All right, everyone, listen up. Linda and I have something exciting to share with you all." The chatter died down as everyone turned toward him, curious. I had no idea what was coming. My dad smiled broadly and said, "We're so proud of Alex and everything he's accomplished. And we're excited to announce that his business will now be part of our family legacy, something we can all cherish and grow together." There was applause and cheers, but I sat frozen. Family legacy? Cherish and grow together? I couldn't wrap my head around what he was saying. This was the business I'd built from scratch, through years of struggle and sacrifice, and suddenly, it was being treated as some kind of communal asset. When the noise settled, I stood up, trying to keep my voice steady. "Thanks, Dad," I said, "but I think there's been a misunderstanding. The business isn't a family legacy. It's something I built on my own. I took the risks, put in the hours, and dealt with the challenges. This is my livelihood. My dad's smile wavered for a moment, but he recovered quickly. Of course, son, and we're all so proud of you. But now that it's successful, it's time to think about the future. Imagine what we could do together. Your siblings and cousins could help out. We could make it even bigger. My chest tightened. Dad, this isn't a group project. No one else was there when I was working 16-hour days or struggling to pay the bills. This isn't something I can just hand over to the family. My sister Megan chimed in, her voice dripping with sarcasm. Oh, come on, Alex. It's not like anyone's asking you to give it up. Dad just means we could all contribute. Maybe I could handle marketing or customer service. I turned to her, incredulous. Megan, you've never shown any interest in what I do. You don't even know what products I sell. Her arms crossed defensively. That's not fair. I didn't want to interfere. But now that it's doing well, why shouldn't the family benefit? You wouldn't even have this drive if it weren't for mom and dad raising you the way they did. My cousin Eric, always eager to stir the pot, laughed and said, Yeah, Alex, don't act like you did it all on your own. Remember how Grandpa gave you advice when you were starting out? Family's always been there for you. Advice doesn't pay the bills, Eric, I snapped. I appreciate Grandpa's wisdom, but let's not rewrite history. He didn't put up any money, and he didn't take on any of the risk. Eric shrugged. Still, you're acting like you're too good for the family now. At this point, my dad stepped back in, his voice firm. That's enough arguing. Alex, no one's trying to take anything from you. We're just saying it's time to think bigger. What's the point of success if you can't share it with the people who love you? Then my Aunt Karen spoke up, her words stopping me cold. Actually, Alex, your parents did help you more than you think. Who do you think paid off that second loan you defaulted on? I stared at her, stunned. What are you talking about? I asked, my voice sharp. My mom looked away, her expression uncomfortable. We didn't want to tell you, sweetheart. You were under so much stress, and we didn't want you to feel like you owed us. But when you were struggling that first year, we stepped in and paid off one of your loans. My dad added, it was for your own good. We couldn't stand to see you fail. I was floored. So you went behind my back, paid off my debt without telling me, and now you're using that to justify calling my business a family legacy? Do you have any idea how insulting that is? My mom's eyes filled with tears. We just wanted to help, Alex. We didn't mean to upset you. I appreciate the help, I said, my voice softer now. But that doesn't mean you get to rewrite the story of how this business was built. I worked for this. I sacrificed for this. It's my dream, not a family project. The mood had shifted completely. What had started as a celebration had turned into a standoff. My parents were hurt, my siblings were frustrated, and I felt completely alone. I left the barbecue that day feeling like the ground had been pulled out from under me. The days that followed were filled with tension. My parents kept reaching out, trying to convince me to see their perspective. They called it a matter of family honor and legacy, but to me, it felt like an overreach. My siblings sided with them, adding fuel to the fire by accusing me of being selfish and ungrateful. Social media became another battleground, with vague posts about family obligations and forgotten roots. It was exhausting and disheartening. I consulted a lawyer to ensure my business was protected. Adam, my lawyer, reassured me that as long as the business remained in my name with no